Calling all units, calling all units. Donut Shop has a fresh dozen. Go ahead and take a 1040.
We were talking before, you didn't really know about this.
Know.
And I don't think a lot of people know about this, but there's a Florida Guard now.
There is,
which
yeah.
essentially is like, and again, I'll let you explain it because I got the explanation. I actually have somebody at work that went through boot camp, I guess it's called, where he was out there for weeks and went through the boot camp, and he's a former SWAT guy. He's still active with us, but now he's a part of the Florida Guard. So you want to explain a little bit about the Florida Guard?
The Florida Guard is not a new institution or concept.
Yep.
They really were authorized starting around the World War II time, and they're separate and distinct from the National Guard. And after World War II, I think some states went away from standing up a state guard. Governor DeSantis saw the value in having everyday citizen Guard members who are willing to go help out in hurricanes, are willing to help law enforcement, willing to do some of the grunt work that goes on in this profession, but do it as a volunteer, but the well-trained professional volunteer. And so in the last legislative session, the governor and the legislature reauthorized it. They've diverted or they've applied a lot of resources in terms of money, equipment, professional talent to help train. And in fact, they were just activated for the first time. We got to work with them, the Highway Patrol, during Hurricane Idalia in North Florida.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful concept, right? So the Florida National Guard, which reports to the National Guard Bureau in Washington, we don't have a whole lot of say as a state as to how many authorized members we have in that. That comes from a bureaucracy in Washington, and we have the lowest or second lowest per capita National Guard staffing in the nation. So Governor DeSantis said, what can I do? As he often does, he says, what can we do better, and how do we go about doing that? He stubbed the Florida State Guard, and I think you're going to see a lot of value, participation, and good deeds come from this organization in the future.
Yeah, I know it's not new, but it is, I guess, reborn.
Correct.
And once the infrastructure and it starts getting built up and more resources, once the word gets out about this, I have a feeling, because there's a lot of Florida fans of Florida that live in Florida that are proud of Florida, especially nowadays.
Yes.
Things that are happening around the nation. That I'm proud to be from Florida. I'm like, I don't want to go anywhere else, any other state. I love my Florida. So if there's any way to give back, I'm sure once the word gets out, I'm sure that will beef up. The numbers will beef up tremendously.
So you say volunteer. I mean, obviously volunteer because you're selecting to join, but is it volunteer during your time when you're deployed, or is it a like Florida National Guard? If you get deployed, we've had officers that are part of that work during COVID at sites and stuff like that. They're obviously getting paid by the Guard, by the National Guard, the Army, and
so you're saying are you monetary compensated for the time that you're there when you're active duty?
Yeah, there is a monetary component to it when you are activated, but think about like reserve officers in law enforcement, how much talent there is, how many people have left the profession full time, but we still draw on their expertise.
Sure.
They come out and patrol, they apply their skills in other areas of the department. So times that by a million, right? How many retired, active duty, tactically sound, 10-8, so to speak, people that are in private life, civilian life, but still want to provide their expertise and their work ethic to the state of Florida. The Florida State Guard is the best way to apply those skills and that passion.
Well, the gentleman that's in it at my job there, one of the most tactical guys that we have, and he is he's at the end of his career. He's about to retire in the next couple of years. He went there and he said the same thing. He's like, there's a lot of dudes that know what they're doing over there. They're tactically sound. They're just freshly retired, and they're just like, hey, this is how I can provide service. And I like the fact that it's like we don't have to wait, because there's all those. Imagine activating a National Guard. I mean, I'm sure there's a process, some red tape you got to get through, and there's maybe hours, days, maybe a week or something. That whole time, if a hurricane hit, like the one we had in Fort Myers, I know the recent one we had just now, there's people waiting and like, hey, they need help. Yep. So if you're your state, like, hey, we're gonna throw everything at it like ASAP right now. Get out there now. And I think it's a very good tool to have, and I applaud the idea of having something like that.
I do too, and it engages a whole population whose expertise we would otherwise lose. And so one of the, I think, mantras of Governor DeSantis is, what should government be doing? And if they're going to do that, do it very well, be very effective at it. That's why he's so supportive in law enforcement. Public safety is a core mission of government, but responding to emergencies should be as well. Our National Guard does a great job. Our local agencies do a great job. The Highway Patrol is a big component of that. But why not have passionate Floridians stand up in the Guard and say, we're gonna help, and here's how. And they're doing it. They just did it in Idalia, and it was a very special moment for the history of the state.
I think it's I think they have an Instagram. It's like Florida Guard or something like that. We'll put it up on the screen so you can check it out, and we'll link it down below. They have an Instagram up. There's not that, like I said, they're newer, so there's stuff coming out. But if you're interested, go check it out there, and I'm sure there's a website you can Google and check it out. Florida Guard. Definitely something cool.
Yeah, and it's funny because you mentioned the officer in your department. So I had a litany of troopers all the way to the rank of captain whose applications I couldn't sign off. They were selected to be part of it. I said, but there's a conflict here. When we're in an emergency, the Highway Patrol Act, you can't serve two masters.
Yeah.
But I understood, and I wasn't surprised as to why state troopers wanted to be a part of that organization. It's historical. They're getting in at the front end, which is an exciting time, right, when it's being reactivated, and they get to be part of an organization that does good work for the people.
Instagram is Florida State Guard Official.
There you go.
For anybody listening.
There's a gator
it's a black and white with a gator, and
it's pretty cool.
Do you have some doing that, gator?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hey, what's up, guys? If you like that clip, go over and check out the full episode at Donut Shop Podcasts. Link is down below in the description.